their eyes. It's the same old story, but they just didn't realize. And it's a long way to come.
Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Charles Lenore. I didn't have my own mic on. Usually I do that to the guest. Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. This is the premiere edition of Open Season on Men. It's been a decade that I've been threatening to do a show like this, and the time has come. It really has. And, of course, John Romano has been slated to be my co-host on this show because while we see a lot of the same things pretty much similar, we have a lot of opposing views, and I think it's he's also in the wheelhouse of the objective of the show. And I want to tell what people, I think a lot of people, when we first talked about doing the show, John, I think everybody thought this was going to be like a bitch fest about how we hate women. I mean, neither one of us hate women, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. I think it's fair to say that we love women. I've read some of the stuff you wrote for Muscular Development about your escapades when you were an early bodybuilder and stuff like that. And I think that we both very, very much love women. We loved our mothers. And that's a key foundation for building love for women, right? In general, you love a woman, you respect a woman. The first woman you love and you respect is your mom. Absolutely. And then you transfer versions of that to women in your life that you love and respect. So, it starts there. But, what do you think? You didn't want this to be a bitch fest. You didn't want to be Joy Behar, right? The male Joy Behar, right?
male Joy Behar? No. Yeah. I think there's a tremendous disconnect today in America with respect to the actual identity of men and masculinity and what that means to society. And there's a tremendous amount of it that has been broken up and dissected and misaligned, maligned, and recomposed into be something that's just absolutely not. To the point where masculinity is been tagged as toxic. Yeah. And that is just so counterproductive to what society needs today. Society does not need the maleness, masculinity to be termed toxic. We need men in this society because we have a lot of very low male men running around doing things that are just ruining the society as a whole because of what this reflects on the new generation of boys coming up to men who are not becoming real men. And
so I guess in order for you to think masculinity is a bad thing, you'd have to look at the actions of men and attribute either a moral or societal judgment on these actions. So the things that men do that are bad, so therefore masculinity is bad. But men raise children. Men contribute to families. Men fight wars. See, that's the one. I wanted to say that. Men are looked at as we're violent. And it's not popular to say that violence has a place in society today. Unfortunately, it does. If someone is attacking you and you decide to be Gandhi, you die. So what did you achieve?
An early exodus.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that the problem is that we have labeled certain behaviors bad and exclusively male. But women kill, women stab.
Let me stop you there before we get too far off the track. Men are bad. I mean, there is all sexual assaults are male generated. I mean, there's maybe a tenth of a percent of them are women. 99.9% of sexual assaults are men. The far majority of the population in prison is men. Men are responsible for going to war, destroying things, blowing shit up, violence, violent attacks. These are all male-dominated actions in society. That's just a fact. Okay, you can go all the way down to the inherent instinctual aspects of male-female roles in society, whereas women are tagged the creators and men are the destroyers. Men are the women are the ones who have babies. Men are the ones who hunt,
take lives. Who take lives? They kill. They kill. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Men. Very good point. Men take lives. Women create them. Although there are women murderers and bad women too. I mean, it's not to say all, but overwhelmingly the majority is men. So there's a point to be made for that. However, if you're in a life and death situation and it's going to come down to you living and dying, and you're going to choose a man or a woman to save your ass, you're going to choose the man. Plain and simple. So, and
it could be said that a large portion of our trajectory in evolution was male initiated, in that the fact that we hunted, we put ourselves at risk. Women gathered, they did contribute. There was no way around it, but men were the ones that got together and hunted a mammoth, and then the whole tribe ate for weeks. And and wars are unnecessary. Wars are ideologically driven 99% of the time, religious ideology, or just some sort of societal ideology that somehow we are better than you. But men fight wars because men are the ones that have the strength to fight wars. If women were stronger than men through evolutionary history, women would have been the ones chosen to fight wars. Sure. And the fact that it's society has, as a whole, put the shoulder of the burden of just about everything on the man. So, for example, you and your wife are out in the car driving one night, car gets a flat tire. Who's going to get out in the rain and fix the flat? Right. It's not even a discussion. Right. Okay? You're having dinner, the two of you at the table. Who does a waiter put the bill down in front of? Right. It's not even a discussion. Boom. Right. It's the guy's job. Right. Men open the door for the woman, not the other way around. There is a societal expectation. Yeah. Exactly. A societal expectation that a male will do the male's job. And the male job has been identified and defined through what society values as his place in the hierarchy, and women theirs. Somehow that got twisted up into being something bad. And there's a movement afoot now to condemn men for doing what men do. Well, and in fact, this kind of nicely segues into the discussion of fathers and sons. Yes. So there's an overwhelming number of homes today with weak men as the male counterpart, because there are an overwhelming number of women today who choose men that they feel they can control better. And so a lot of times they'll choose guys that have certain qualities of ability to generate money, but also a kind of, not really very masculine guys, easy pushovers, that sort of thing. I saw it yesterday. I was at a store, and the guy wanted to pay, and the woman says, no. And she came up with a reason why she had to use her credit card, and he just kind of sheepishly backed off. And I got the feeling that this was a common dance between them, where she makes she's the one who spends the money. And I'm sure he contributed at least half to the money that they've accumulated. And I thought, this is part of the problem today. Men have been relegated to women because of selection. And women choose. If you don't like where evolution's going, blame women, because they're the ones who drive the choices, the selection pressure. But women tend to choose weaker men today for a variety of reasons. And then when you take that and apply it in concert with the fact that there are millions of fatherless homes today, I would argue, I would offer the supposition that the reason that we're seeing this is because we don't have strong males in the household any longer. Either they're completely absent or they're derelict of any real masculine qualities any longer. Have you ever heard of Briffault's law? No. Briffault's law basically states that all relationships are transactional.
and women seek men for a deal. They're looking to be, and this actually can be traced back to instinctual characteristics, as the female is tasked with propagation of the species. She's the one who gives birth. So she's the one that's going to look for an appropriate male to sire the children, take care of them, be a good provider, and that's a transaction. She's going to trade a certain amount of service for that. What happens is, when you get to the example you gave about women choosing weaker men to make this transaction, you got to play the chicken and the egg. Which came first? What happened? There is a much larger population today of effeminate men than there ever have been, ever in history. Okay, men today are weak across the board, and I have never seen in my lifetime, 59 years on this planet, I have never seen as much pandering to weak men as I have today. And you look at there's a commercial on TV now for some dating site, okay? And the girl, she's cute and she, whatever, she's doing her thing. The guy is like almost her,
Right.
His name's Tyler, and he's got a cat, and he's he drinks his coffee drink, and he loves living in the city, and he's like a total feminuch, as we used to say.
Right.
And I'm like, where's the fucking Marlboro Man?
Yeah.
I mean, where's the guy that exudes masculinity and strength and machismo, who's going to be a person to feel safe with? And you're gonna feel safe with Tyler, with his cat? So absolutely not. So women are being availed, to this parade of choices that aren't very good. So what are they going to do?
Yeah, but I see it from the other side. I see the driver being women's choices. See, I think today's women want girlfriends with penises. That's really what they want. They want a guy who is, look.
They want Tyler.
Caring is not what's the word? Mutually exclusive from being masculine. Right. Masculine men can care, they can nurture, they can be loving. That's the other problem we have. We've been put into these silos, right? Neanderthal. He's such a Neanderthal. Well, you know what? Men are not Neanderthals. It's sad that we're castigated into this monolith of you're either a weak, wimpy, loving guy, or you're a strong guy. You can't be a strong guy and still be loving. And so, but I really feel that today's, you said something and it made me think. Back in the early days, women gave things to men. Men gave things to women. It was, as you point out, it was a mutual transaction relationship. And somehow, and probably because of religion, somehow that transactional relationship became somehow dirty. Because when just look at divorce, right? A man is supposed to continue to give his ex-wife money so she can remain in the standard of living that she has become accustomed to. The guy can't say to the judge, well, I want sex twice a week then. Yeah, women are like, you want sex? I don't owe you sex. Well, actually, if you look historically through evolution, yeah, you do, because that's what you gave men to get them to go out and hunt and kill and fight and protect you from saber-toothed tigers. That's what you gave them.
Right.
And somehow I think religion came into, and then women became like, well, no, sex is not something I owe you. It's not. And that's part of why I think that women look for weak guys. That right there.
Well, because women interpreted that as objectification, and who wants to be objectified.
Right.
But
guys are objectified.
Absolutely, but it doesn't. But because we're supposed to be the strong ones, it doesn't matter. He'll get over that. We're women; it cripples them for life.
Well, the other problem is men don't talk about it, right? So when women go through tough times, they have a group of girlfriends. They go and they talk, and they come up with ideas and solutions, and they go on. Guys, they're quiet. They go sit in their chair and they stew. They don't want to talk about it with anybody. They don't open up with friends. That's really part of the reason I want to do this show. I felt like we don't talk about this stuff. It's like, why don't we talk about this stuff?
Or they get high or get drunk or go to the gun range or go out with their buddies and, bang hookers. They do what male what male essence forces them to or entices them to do, not forces, but entices them to do. Men typically internalize their vulnerability, whereas women wear it on their sleeve.
Right.
So and there's never a shortage of a coffee clutch of women willing to talk about, what's bothering them. Right. So, men don't have that. Men don't need it, honestly. Guys, there's a great meme out there. It's the difference between men and women. And one shows this machine, and it's full of buttons and dials and knobs and switches and complicated gauges and wires and pipes and plumbing. And that's the woman. The guy, it's a box with an on-off switch.
Right. Right.
That's it. That is it.
Right.
And women, if they would just understand that, they would have so many fewer problems dealing with men. Because what does a man want? Man wants, he's going to go out and go to work. He wants to come home to a hot meal, 2 hours in the bedroom, and a good night's sleep, wake up to a hot breakfast, and he's going to go out and do it again.
But what's changed in society? Well, I got to get to Len Moskowitz's comment. Tyler and his bride are going to raise a son in their image. This is exactly the problem we're discussing here. And with every generation, men become less like men.
Yes.
But to your point here, it's like but women are out in the workplace now earning too, which kind of, the part of the problem is we have a shifting of roles.
Yes.
We have women who make more money than their husbands.
Yes.
We have women who get tagged in divorces, having to pay their husband's alimony. It's not exclusively a male thing. Now, it's an outlier when it's a woman, but it's not an exclusive thing. We have roles changing that kind of muddy this up as well. I don't think guys have done as good of a job transitioning, in my humble opinion. And I'll tell you something, to add to something you said earlier in the show, more men commit suicide than women. More men are institutionalized, are alcohol addicted to drugs and alcohol, are in jail. And interestingly enough, boy babies cry more often than girl babies until boy babies are 4 years old.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't believe that something switches in them. I believe that they're told boys don't cry.
Yeah.
And that's why we go bang hookers and drink and do coke when we're frustrated, instead of getting together with the guys and going, I feel bad about this. What should I do?
Right. There's a bit of that has to do with the image a male will present to another male. You don't ever want to seem weak. Okay, at least in our generation, anyway. You don't want to see right. Today, that's different. You see them in Starbucks all the time with their man buns and the glitter in their beard and the sweater tied around their neck and the man purse draped over the back of the chair. And they're talking about, their relationship. And it's like, yeah, to a woman, that's fantastic. That's what they want to see. But to another guy, that's like, what are you doing?
But maybe that's what has to change. Maybe that's one of the things we need to. So maybe big, strong, masculine guys like you and I mean, we're clearly, no one would ever accuse us of being metrosexuals, right?
Right.
Maybe we need to start talking about this sensitive stuff so the guys can finally go, oh, it's okay for me to be strong and masculine and the Marlboro man, but also to talk to my friends when I feel like something is going on in my life that I need a little advice on. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe that's the transition men need to make.
To a point. I mean, there's a great scene in Gladiator where, he comes back from war and he washes the blood off his hands, and then he goes into the bedroom and he has sex, makes love to his wife. Okay. So yeah, there's a transitional period that period that takes place between the utmost exemplification of masculinity and the utmost tenderness that a guy can generate for the opposite sex or for his child or a dog. Okay. But so the transition has got to be what's intact. What happens is the metrosexual movement today stymies them in that side, and they don't transaction. They don't move. It's they're all the way over there or they're all the way over here. So guys like us who can transition are rare. And we're becoming more rare by the day because you're either getting the holdouts from our generation that won't pass that point and be, vulnerable, or you're getting the ones that are always vulnerable. So, there's probably more than societal. I think there's chemical factors that take place. I think the estrogen levels are very high today than in the food, the air, the water, than
everything
ever been. In Guadalajara, for example, there's 6 girls born for every boy.
Well, there's places in South America that they're blaming this. So where they grow sugarcane in South America, I can't remember some of these towns' names, but I read this a couple years ago. They have a very, very high degree of what is called monocrypticidism or dicrypticidism. And this is either one testicle doesn't drop or neither testicles drop in boys. And they're attributing it not just to the estrogenic compounds, but the androgenic compounds that obscure the receptor from being stimulated by real androgens like DHT.
Yes.
And so you're absolutely right. We live today in a toxic soup that is affecting affecting gender, and it's why we have so many LGBT people today. So somebody once asked me, do you think that this bumper crop of LGBT people is because we have the internet? No, you have people who are forming in the womb. And so the first trimester is when the genitalia forms. The brain forms last. In the third trimester, sexual preference. So if you have high levels of estrogen in the first trimester, but now all of a sudden you have some sort of androgen receptor modulating chemical in the third, you'll have a child with a vagina who's attracted to women.
Right. Yes. And but we all the zygote all starts out female to begin with. So, the transition during gestation is affected by numerous factors, chemical included. So, right. The chemical soup, as you pointed out, is an extremely, relevant issue with this whole thing. But and the ideology, the metrosexual, homosexual, transgender ideology, I wouldn't rule out the internet completely. I think social media is partly responsible for, just like veganism, social media is responsible for a lot of this promotion of gender identity issues.
I got to be honest with you, John. Veganism is a moral construct, but I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about could I just wake up one morning and think, gee, I wonder what it would feel like to have balls on my chin. I don't think you can do it. I don't think a guy can. I mean, he may think to himself for a second, oh no, no. You either are wired that way or you're not. I don't think that's like veganism, where I'm going to give this veganism a try. My gut's been bothering me, and I'll be saving animals. Yeah, let me try it. I think I'm going to give guys a try. I don't think they do that. No.
Let me clarify. It's the popularity of it. Okay, so there very well could be an equal number of transgender, gender confused, and metrosexual, homosexual ideologies fostering themselves in society, and we would never know about it without social media.
Okay.
Social media brings this all to the forefront, and
there is no closet. There is no closet anymore.
It makes it okay. So while you may not have ever thought of what it feels like to have balls on your chin, 50 guys who ever have and never would say anything about it. Now read a post from a guy who does have balls on his chin, who never thought he would do that. And goes, oh, it's okay to think like that. Now I'm going to respond and say, yeah, I used to think about having balls on my chin too.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Then it becomes that you're okay, I'm okay bullshit.
Right.
So,
right.
So there's social media definitely has a place in promoting these ideologies and making them okay to talk about, to come out of it. Like you said, there's no closet anymore. Social media knocked down the closet.
Yeah.
So it's gone. So, what the problem is that social media gives them power, and it gives them power to replicate and become stronger in their own right, so that women ultimately are left with fewer and fewer and fewer masculine choices,
right.
because all of the counter masculine ideologies have been deemed appropriate, okay, and have actually been promoted. And what you end up with is, especially in high population centers, big cities where there's a lot of, art and culture and, diversity, you get these guys. I mean, you go to New York City now, it's all metros, I mean,
I know. I was just there. I know.
There's very few manly men walking around New York.
No.
They're all going to art galleries, museums, ballet. They got a sweater tied around their neck. They got, they're just not men, And I was at dinner at a restaurant the last time I was there, and I'm looking around and I'm going, I feel like I'm on Christopher Street. What the hell happened here?
Right. Liam Cregan says families are broken, leads to feminized women. Women are masculinized by the culture. And I think what he's speaking to is what we said earlier in the show, that between the number of broken homes, where there's literally 10 million homes, according to 2015 statistics, fatherless homes, and combine that with the fact that there are fewer and fewer masculine men playing the role of man in a family, that you end up with women who are more masculine than feminine, and you end up with boys that are more feminine than masculine.
The single parent household is a very tricky paradigm. I got full custody of my son when he was 8 years old, and I raised him myself up until he was. When my wife, when Valerie and I got married, I guess he was about 12 or 13, and she took over as mom. But there was a period there when it was just him and me. And I was trying to balance, mom and dad positions in the family. And it's very difficult because as a man, I am not, femininely inclined. And thank God I didn't have a girl, because I don't know what the hell I would have done. Max turned out to be a pretty decent, well-adjusted kid who's got a great relationship now. He's 20 years old, and he doesn't seem to have any, male-female, conflict issues in his relationship with a woman. I think overall we did a pretty good job, considering the fact that he was, abandoned by his mother. So, there's a fine line you got. Sure, I did a lot of things wrong as a parent, but
yeah, we all do. Nobody makes a manual yet on how to be a parent.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
There isn't one.
I know.
So, and I really feel for the guys who are put in a position where they're the sole parent of a girl or two girls or three girls.
My friend Brian McNeil is posting right now. He says, I always had sole custody of my oldest daughter from 4. She is now 21 and killing it. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, power to him, man. He's a success story. But there's an awful lot of families, broken families in the inner city, where, the mom is left to raise the son, and she's got, not only is she not equipped to do it, she's also got to work. She's got the kid in daycare. The kid is bounced around from, the grandmother, the aunt, the daycare, her, friends, family. And there's just no solid identity with a strong male figure to teach this boy how to be a man. And he learns how to be a man off the street, and 9 times out of 10, that's going to land him in prison.
Well, and he also learned what a woman is off the street.
Correct.
The role of the mother in the boy's life, the role of the mother is to portray what a woman is. A boy learns the qualities in a woman that are considered valuable from his mother. So if he grows up in a household without a mother, then he has to look to other women in his circle in his life to supply that data.
Yes.
But a boy learns to be a man from his father. The most valuable relationship for the boy is the father.
Yes.
And I know there's a lot of mothers out there that did wonderful jobs raising boys. But you have to understand that a boy at an early age, a boy wants to be just like his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Then around puberty, he starts to have changing feelings for his father. And then he wants to differentiate himself from his dad. In fact, we naively believe that we are so friggin' different than our fathers were at our age when we're in our 20s. We're like, oh, we're just completely different. And then all of a sudden you turn 50 and 60 and you're like, holy shit, I became my father.
Yeah.
No, you've always been your father. He was exactly the way you were in your 20s and 30s and 40s. If you had the opportunity to be a fly on the wall in his life, you'd find out that he dealt with the same problems you dealt with. He responded similarly. He felt the same because you were imprinted. You were imprinted with code from watching him, the way he dealt with the waitress when she made a mistake. Was he a jerk and blaster, or did he go, oh, don't worry about it. I eat liver once in a while anyway. I'll eat it. The way your father handles those kind of things, it programs how you handle those things.
Yes. I catch myself doing it all the time. I'm a oddity in the sense that my parents had a strong, loving relationship until the day my father died at 84 years old, and I identify, even though my father and I could not possibly be more different in a lot of senses. However, we could also not possibly be more the same. Mm-hmm. So, and I catch myself, I would say daily, doing something and finding myself, my dad taught me this. Like when I had my construction company and I was, building something and figuring out something. I said, yeah, I remember my dad teaching me this. I remember my dad teaching me how to use this tool or this method or how to measure or how to whatever. Or, I'm teaching my son how to change a tire and I'm telling him, make sure you stay on your feet so you can jump away if the car falls off the jack, or, little things that my dad taught me. And not only practical, aspects of things that men do, but also how he would encourage my mother, not berate her.
See? And that's why you have good relationships. We can't, we have to speak openly about this. The fact that you saw your father actively love your mother through actions and deeds, not just words, is the reason that you have the relationships that you have throughout your life.
My wife, after 10 years we've been together, my wife still says, thank God you had your father to learn from. Because
she's wise enough to see that. She's wise enough to put value in that masculine-male relationship and why it's important. I want to change the subject just slightly, and then we're going to take a break after this because we're going long, but it looks like everybody's really liking it. So yesterday I was at Cabela's buying some stuff because I'm taking my son Chase hunting, his first hunting experience, upstate New York, where I hunted when I was 15 years old. Schoharie County, Middleburg.
Okay.
Yeah, just south of Albany.
I used to live in Kingston.
Oh yeah, sure, I know where that is.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking my son hunting for the first time, and he and I have been going back and forth, and he's buying stuff. So I went shopping yesterday to buy some new stuff that I needed, and I saw a father with a young son, and the son was just. He was elated to be with his dad at Cabela's. You could tell. He was excited. He must have been about 8 years old, maybe 8 years old. And the father was not entertaining his excitement. And so the kid was becoming even more like rambunctious. Dad, could we get this and that? And then you can see the father was completely annoyed with the kid and then just walked past him and like ignored him. And I thought to myself, what makes a father treat a young son who hasn't been on the planet long enough to really learn any really bad behavior and piss anybody off? What makes a father feel almost embarrassed of and so cold to his son? And then it dawned on me. He sees in his son the things that he doesn't like about himself, that he's never made peace with,
right?
That he doesn't want to talk about, that he wants to hide from. He sees it in his son.
Yep.
What do you think?
100% I agree with you. You know, having been a single parent, I can tell you that these little munchkins can get on your nerves like nothing else. So it's not that you don't love them. It's just that everything else that swirls around you in life sucks some of it out of you. And then you got to deal with dad. And then, you know, you can, they drive you nuts, but you got to be able to pull that back and say, look, like you said, look, the kid's 8. I mean, you know, Holly's hasn't been on earth long enough to have, you know, a malign view of things. And I got to entertain his excitement and his, you know, the newness of everything around him and not get pissed off or upset or frustrated, flustered, whatever. So it takes a strong man to be able to do that. It also takes the entirety of the family unit to spread out that responsibility, for the mom to absorb some of it, the father to absorb some of it, the siblings, if there are any, to absorb some of it. So this kid has got a more well-rounded balance of, you know, of people around him to tolerate, you know, what he's going to put the parent through. When it's concentrated on one parent like that, look, I've been in that position, and as bad as I feel about it, I can lament the fact that maybe, you know, I should have been a little bit more understanding or less frustrated or whatever in that situation. But as you said, I do look at that introspectively and say, yeah, I don't like that about me, you know? So yeah, I mean, I that's the point where you need to be able to break away from the self-reflection and say, I'm going to break the chain right here, and I'm going to entertain my child and not, you know, be pissed off.
I think if guys, I think if there's good, was that?
It's not easy though.
No, but I think because we're talking about it, I think there are guys that probably may relate to that, where they were with their son and he was acting up, and they just went a little too hard, a little too far, a little too fast, instead of being a little more patient. That will hear this message and think, you know, I was probably that kind of a pain in the ass too. I know I was. My mother she never let me not know it. She was very skilled at always telling me, you know, what a thick-headed pain in the ass I was growing up. But you know, I embraced it. Because maybe guys need to be a little bit more willing to laugh at themselves. That part of that whole "I'm a man, I'm masculine" thought. You know, I used to have problems with the old bodybuilding magazines when they used to have some of those pictures where the guy was lifting and the other guy was yelling in his face, and it's like, you know, it's like one of the things I liked about David Henry and even Jay Cutler is they were always smiling.
Yeah.
I knew all the pictures they took, they were always smiling. They weren't like, no, I'm thug. And you know, I kind of feel like guys get caught up in that thing that again, it comes to expectations. Like you said, we can't be that way. We're men, we're masculine. We have to be tough. You know, you can turn it off. You don't have to be thug life every second of the day.
Well, there is a place for it. I mean, I wouldn't go perhaps thug life, but you know, there's a place for it, but you have to be able to transition. And going back to that example, you know, with the father and the son, you know, maybe 15 minutes later, we took him for ice cream and said, you know, kind of diffused the situation.
Yeah,
you see,
that would have been good.
You see in the animal kingdom all the time. The little lion is bugging the father lion, and eventually the father lion goes, rah, and, whacks him, and then the thing goes flying, and then 10 minutes later, the little cub is laying on his head and he's sleeping. So as long as you can come back to the loving nature of it and the nurturing aspect of it, the little fly off at the handle becomes common. It becomes not commonplace, but it becomes absorbable and acceptable if you maintain that negative aspect of it and don't come back to the nurturing, loving aspect of it. That's when you start piling on the scar tissue.
But I would offer, going back to the fact that we watch our fathers and we are programmed by their actions. If the little boy is acting a certain way, maybe he's really excited and happy, and the father sees that as some sort of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. No, he doesn't even. He just doesn't like it. He doesn't realize it's a vulnerability because he sees that in himself, but he doesn't want to acknowledge it. What he's imprinting that child with is that kind of behavior is bad. It's no, that child, see, I subscribe to the vampire edict. Once bitten, we bite.
Yes.
If you're a child of an alcoholic family, you have certain attributes that are undeniable that you've learned because you've been bitten, and you will then bite. And it's important to understand. And that kid is being bitten at that moment. And someday he's going to be a father, and he's going to have a son that's really excited about Christmas one day, and he's just going to be treating them cold and inappropriately. And that child will then be bitten, and that child will bite. So it's important to break that. And again, this is what I hope to be able to talk about. These types of concepts in masculinity and being a man today, so that people go, maybe in today's society, I need to be able to shift a lot faster from Marlboro Man, to Mr. Dad. And maybe we, just by discussing it, we're kind of putting it out there into the universe, Well,
Carl, what I want to understand and hopefully talk more about is what is it that is attractive about the non-masculine male?
I think I know what it is. I want to take a break, and why don't we talk about that on the other side?
Okay, that sounds good.
I actually have a strong opinion of this, and this is from both, living life and watching life at the same time. We're talking with John Romano today. He is the co-host of Open Season on Men. We're going to try to do this twice a month to start out. Depending on the following, it may spin off into its own show. That's the hope. But we appreciate you sitting here and listening today and watching. And if you have any questions or comments, you can put them up on Facebook, and they'll be part of today's live show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety, or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety with, which I have a long history of. Having started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I found that actually, in the middle of a panic attack, I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers. You already know the benefits of red light therapy. Now you have to find the strongest, best one out there at the best price, right? That's where Scott Chevery found himself. He had to create Mito Red Light so you can get the strongest, best red light therapy unit in the world at the absolute best price. And the Superhuman Nation gets an additional discount. Go to MitoRedLight.com and use code SHR to get the lowest price anywhere, plus free shipping inside the USA and deeply discounted shipping worldwide. Go to mitoredlight.com and use code SHR today. That's MITOREDLIGHT.com. Hey, this is Carl. For 14 years, you've heard me talk about Can-C eye drops, and they being the reason that I do not need reading glasses at now 61 years old. But I regularly get emails and messages from people who've been using Can-C and having some amazing results. Recently, I got an email from a fellow named Chad, who, because he was on dexamethasone eye drops for over 6 months, developed a cataract. Can-C eye drops actually reduced my cataract to the point where even my doctor has a hard time finding it. I will never stop using Can-C eye drops twice a day. I've been using them since 2008, he says. And you should be too. There is no better way to keep your eyes healthy and seeing clearly than Can-C eye drops. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com today and get on board, and we will both be looking into the future with very clear vision. Are you looking for a better way to absorb the nutrients you know you need? Do what I do and start your day with lipospheric supplements from Live On Labs. Unlike pills and powders, Live On's patented liposomal encapsulation technology transports nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin B, glutathione, acetyl L-carnitine, and alpha-lipoic acid to where they need to be, your cells. Visit try.liveonlabs.com/Carl to learn why I take these supplements every day to help me perform in the gym and in life. That's try.liveonlabs.com/Carl. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Broomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
I got to start opening my mic. Welcome back. You think I just today's my first day on the job. You got to cut me a little slack. Anyway, so you're talking about why these women find these particular traits as qualities in men today, which is the lack of masculinity, right?
Well, it's the attractiveness of it. You know, we covered a bit of it in the beginning of the show, because I think your reasoning was that these men are more easy to control, more easily controlled, and
ultimately that's the contract between men and women. Yes. Women don't have the strength to lift the box. Women will find a partner to do the lifting for her.
Yeah, except the box better not be too heavy, because whoever they're looking for can't lift it.
Well, so society has changed, right? You don't have to lift boxes anymore, right? Now you just have to work on the internet,
right? or use the forklift,
right?
But there used to be, and in fact, there's a recent study I read on this not long ago, where they projected an image of a man from the waist up, shirtless, and they had, you know, from the dad bod to the bodybuilder bod, I guess 5 or 6 iterations in between, and the women automatically they followed their eyes with some kind of, you know, camera, and they had them hooked up to electrodes, and universally across the line, the women were attracted to the masculine guy, the bodybuilder-esque physique, right. Big chest, big arms, big shoulders, and they were able to surmise through this that the instinctual attraction to this physique type was because the impression was that this is a strong man. He's going to be a strong hunter, a strong protector, a strong provider, and create a veil of safety for me and the offspring. So that is etched in our DNA.
Yes.
Is that the masculine man is what is attractive. But now these women, and okay, now women are different today because, as you mentioned before, they're in the workforce, they're striving for equality, they They are, on par with men in a lot of respects. And there's some kind of, equilibrium being sought between the sexes in that respect. But you cannot change what's etched in the DNA.
Right. So there's a conscious choice being made here. And to go back to one of the interviews I did with Dr. Daniel Lieberman, the author of the amazing book, The Story of the Human Body. And if you haven't read it, John, you really have to.
All right.
It's the greatest book on anthropology and evolution that you will ever read, especially in today's climate of illness and everything else. And so one of the things he said in an interview one time, which really struck me, is that culture drives evolution. Culture, not necessity, culture. And women are most driven by culture, number one. And women drive evolution because men pursue, but women choose. Women choose a man partially because of the things that they like, and partially because of subliminal drivers that are evolutionarily there. They say a woman can tell from a kiss the DNA that she needs to make up for the bad DNA she has in her offspring. It's that sophisticated. Wow. We don't think about this, but it's true. And so women are choosing the weaker guy because culturally it's the wave now. That's really it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Culture is driving this.
But it's also being fed to them. I'll go back to the dating commercial. Go back to Tyler. They're exploiting Tyler, not the Marlboro Man. They're feeding them Tyler.
Yes.
So Tyler, with his man bun and his glitter and his sweater around his neck and his cat are what it's like in a bodybuilding show. They're going to judge what you give them. You can only judge what's up on stage.
Yes.
Okay, you can't judge what didn't show up. Right. So this is what they're being fed. They're being fed that this is your male archetype.
Well, but that goes hand in hand with the anti-meat, pro-vegan agenda. The global warming agenda. Yeah. Like when you look at what's being fed to us today, and some of it may be good and some of it may be bad, but the bottom line is the most powerful underlying driver we have that is actually driving culture is mass media. And mass media has people that work as editors, and editors who have certain biases choose certain stories because they literally want to see these things proliferate. So you can look to mass media for popularizing, because the vegan diet's not healthier. There are studies that come out every single month that show that the vegan diet leads to greater mental illness, greater depression, greater anxiety, lack of menstruation in women, lack of spermogenesis in men, like all these things that if it was a drug, the FDA would go, oh, you can't take that drug.
Just look at them.
Right.
Just look at them.
But you even have, I have to say it, I'm sorry. Arnold is such a shill, but I know he's a shill. He's an actor. He's a politician. He cheated on his wife. He's not a decent person, but unfortunately he's in a position where he commands a lot of attention. And, he's promoting the vegan diet because it's popular, because he wants to be relevant too today.
Sure.
That's it.
But, this is what creates fertile ground for conspiracy theories. For example, why is mass media promoting the weak male? Well, if the government wants to take over the people, what do they want? Do they want a bunch of macho rednecks with a closet full of AR-15s, or do they want gunless man bun wearing sweater around their neck cat lovers,
testicleless,
who can't bench press 75 pounds? That's what they want, because they can be swept under the rug in one fell swoop. So there's. That may be the case. It may not be the case, but it certainly isn't immune from public discourse.
Right.
And and that's what fuels the war. So it's really unfortunate that we live in a society today that is dismantling, for whatever reason, is dismantling the masculinity out of the man by referring to it as toxic.
Yeah, as something bad. Yeah,
something bad. And that is part of the problem, because it's not something bad. It's something necessary. And if we're going to raise our men, our boys, to turn into men, to be complete wimps, what are we going to end up with as a society?
Well, we're going to be a sub nation of China is what's going to happen.
Well,
Liam makes an interesting point here. Women on the pill will seek more feminine men. Interesting. No, you know. So
I've been doing support that.
I've been doing some deep diving on iron accumulation, and women start to accumulate iron once they go through menopause, and they catch up to men in a lot of the iron-driven maladies. And so I was talking to Ron Penner the other day, and he said, so it makes perfect sense that women on the pill who menstruate less than women not on the pill should have more iron, and they do. So men are here, up here, women who menstruated down here, and women on the pill are right in the middle because they bioaccumulate more. So the pill does have effects. There's no doubt about it. I think that's an interesting concept.
Well, anytime you mess with the hormones, you have issues. I mean, women on testosterone are, in my experience anyway, are attracted to more masculine men.
Right.
So I think Liam's case is definitely made on either end of that analysis. If you're going to look at, what the problem is, nobody's going to do these studies in any great degree because it's going to counteract the narrative.
Yes.
And the narrative today is they want weak men. It's obvious from every source of left-wing media across the globe. All of mainstream media are promoting the weak male. Mm-hmm. And any semblance of masculinity is looked down upon, is scrutinized, is castigated, and turned into something negative. And that completely confounds the issue of raising boys to be good men, because you have to be, to some degree, a masculine male to survive and to promote manly aspects of life, right, for a boy.
Which are not innately bad. And that's the other, which are not innately bad.
Not innately bad, correct. Yeah. And these relegate to the general treatment of women. Like my father was a very manly man, very educated, a very manly man who taught me how to be a man by not berating my mother, by not condemning my mother, by not discouraging my mother, by doing things that lifted her up, not pushed her down. And now that may seem on the surface, well, that's not very manly. Well, actually it is, because if you can go out and, cut firewood all day and kill a deer and drag it home and gut it and skin it and chop it up, and then, encourage your woman to be, nurture your woman in whatever she's, trying to do and keep her lifted up. That's a balancing act that counteracts both sides of the extreme.
Well, and your social value as a mate goes through the roof, because I really believe that some women don't want strong men because they're literally afraid of them. They're afraid that, like, wow, this guy could he could push me around. Elisa has a friend who once said to her, "I could never date Carl. He's too big and strong." I'm lucky. Guys like us are lucky that we have women who like men,
right?
And not the new man. But it's really interesting because I think there's a lot of women out there who just feel like they want a guy that they can control. They want to wear the pants. I know a young girl who told me that she was dating a guy and she was so proud that she made more money than him because now she wears the pants.
Well, those dynamics are interchangeable. I mean, right now, my wife's an attorney. She just made partner in a law firm, and this year she's going to make a lot more money than me. And That doesn't change the dynamic. I mean,
No.
I'm still the man. She's still the woman. We still have our, we had tremendous degree of equality. But at the same time, I open the car door for her every time, whether
Right.
she's going to make more money than me or not.
Right.
I encourage her and lift her up, whether she makes more money than me or not. I don't think that dynamic really has any value in the grand scheme of things, in the sense that I think there's both sides. There's definitely women who are looking for the weak man because they're easier to push around because life puts them in that position. But there's also, and I don't want to leave these women out at all, because my wife is one of them, yours is one of them, that these women seek strong men because they want an equal. They're strong women. Strong women want strong men.
Right.
Not all strong women want a weak man. It's usually a weak woman who wants a weak man.
Yes, because she wants someone weak because she feels weak.
Right.
She wants someone else that she feels stronger than.
And like you said, you're too big and strong for some women because they're weak. And that puts them in a very vulnerable situation when it comes to a lot of interaction. So the fact that fathers are responsible for teaching their boys how to be men is a tremendous responsibility, because it fosters the next generation of men and how they're going to treat women. And that's important because we need women to be women. We don't need women to be men. We don't need women to go toe to toe with us and fight us on every issue.
It's not a competition. Yeah, it's a cooperation. It's not a competition.
There was a great little video on my Facebook feed this morning. It was a really attractive girl who was given a message to the women out there and says, if you have a man, you better make sure that you get your ass out of bed in the morning and make him breakfast. Make his lunch. When he comes home, you have a hot dinner ready. Especially if you're not working, you make sure the house is clean. And when he gets home, you make sure that you take him into the bedroom and, show him a good time and appreciate him.
Show him you love him.
Show him that you love him, and that you enjoy him loving you back.
Right.
And there is no worse. Hugh Hefner once said the greatest tragedy a male can suffer is unrequited love.
Yes.
So when you are a man who venture out onto the limb of vulnerability and express your love and devotion or love and admiration for a woman, and you're chopped off at the knees, that's like the worst thing you can do to a guy. So you have to be aware of the fact that men have certain needs, and if you satisfy those needs of a man, you're going to get it back in spades.
Oh, no. You know what I love to say? If a woman, first of all, men are simple. Make love to us and make us feel like we are the only man to you.
The shit. Yep.
That's all you need to do.
Yep.
And we will take a friggin' bullet for you.
Yep.
That's the truth.
That's
it. Men are easy. Men are easy.
Men are easy. But it's so easy to take that tenet of relationship and bastardize it into something.
Yes, they make it dirty. Oh, you just want sex from me, and no. I want you to make me feel like I'm the most important man in the world to you, and the way you do that is to give yourself to me.
And because
I have a friend who said to me, every time my wife does this, and this to me, I fall in love all over again. And they've been together like 40 years now. And guys are simple. Women make us, they overcomplicate everything. They really do.
But men enjoy being a man. So I don't, myself included, and I don't know any guy who doesn't like being the man. Being the protector, the provider, opening the door for the woman, making sure she's safe, uplifting her, not berating her. Those are enjoyable aspects of the relationship to a guy. And so when you add the sex to it, that you're just doing it because you want to get laid. No, I'm doing that because that's what I like. That's what a man does. And part of what a woman does is makes the guy feel
like a man,
appreciated, and like a man for doing what a man is supposed to do.
Yeah. So interestingly, I had Brian McNeil's post up there that his wife is a strong woman. It just came down. Hold on a second. But she chose him because the fact she knows that if everything fell apart, he would do anything to care for, provide, and protect her and the family. And that's exactly what the contract is between men and women.
That's the deal.
And so we're not offended that you expect us to move heaven and earth to give you the things that mean love to you.
Right.
Why are women so offended when a guy says, but I just need a lot of sex from you? Oh, now you've reduced the relationship to, mean it. No, that's love. That's how you show love. You know how you show love to a man? You make love to him. He can buy his own goodies.
And what does the woman get for that? I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions of sex for women is that when a man has sex with a woman, he's giving her his essence of being a man. That's everything to him. Okay, his essence is for her in that respect.
Right.
Okay, so in a loving relationship, I mean, if you guys are going to go out and bang a hooker, that's completely different. But I mean,
right.
in the context of a loving relationship where he is in fact making love and not having sex, then that is he is giving her his essence as a man, as her partner, as her equal, as her husband, boyfriend, significant other, whatever. Okay, so when that deal is consummated, it's never one-sided. But you got to look at it. You got to look at it from the pragmatic stances, as you just mentioned. It is it's not a payoff. It's the culmination of what is involved in the interaction, the deal between what the man provides and what the woman provides.
Right.
And when the two go together without the conflict of society saying sex is bad, then everything works fine.
Yeah, now you're absolutely right. I want to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, I want to talk about another lesson that fathers teach sons. And it's really the last lesson that they teach them. And that is in the dying of the father.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Open Season on Men.
Men and women, you've heard about hormone optimization. Do you feel like it's something you want to look into? RenewLifeRx.com is the place to start. Their doctors can help you with the solutions. RenewLifeRx.com has a simple process for lab work, consultation, and taking a deep dive into where your hormone levels can be improved. Superhuman Radio listeners get 30% off your initial lab work and consultation. Go to RenewLifeRx.com to schedule your no-obligation phone consultation today. Feel younger, get in better shape, and be more productive at RenewLifeRx.com.
Do you use protein powder? Then you'll want to hear this. Thrive Protein is the single best protein blend in the world, built around what Mother Nature put into mother's milk. Thrive Protein is the first human-appropriate protein blend. There's just too much in Thrive to list in this commercial. That's why I'm challenging you to compare your current protein to Thrive. Get your current protein and go to thrivprotein.com and see how your protein's label stacks up to Thrive. For a limited time, get 3 pounds of Thrive for $59.95, including shipping inside the USA. That's thrivprotein.com and code COMPARE. Get ready to experience protein envy. Are you still on the fence about Body Protection Complex BPC Oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus Lifting Company gym in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. I'm 58 years old, so just older tendon kind of issues. But however, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through them. I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do those with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom-made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back to Open Season on Men. Great song, isn't it? I had bought the karaoke track, so I didn't have to pay royalties on it.
So how do you get away with the karaoke track?
Yeah. So I have access to royalty-free music, and I could have bought another rendition of this, but this was like 99 cents, and everybody knows it's American Woman. That's all we need.
I need Pink Floyd's Money for another podcast I'm doing.
Yeah, so buy the karaoke track. That's all.
I didn't even know you could do that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and there's a couple websites out there where you can buy royalty-free music too. That is, if you want something that sounds closely to the original, there are cover bands that'll play it, and then you'll pay $49 for it one time, and you can use it all.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, that might actually be better. So the lesson I learned from my dad, the last lesson I learned from my dad, Carmine, was upon his death. I told this story on Dave Palumbo's show once, and then he actually had a very similar experience. And I thought, well, maybe this is worthwhile talking, for guys out there as well. So I brought my father home from the nursing home so that he could be home. We knew he was dying, and I had the common sense. Around 2002, I started saying to my father, because I knew he was starting to get he was starting to get old. He didn't take good care of himself. He stayed up all night long. When I was a kid, my father was at the diner. I would come home from a disco at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go to the Blue Fountain Diner on Cross Bay Boulevard. My father would be sitting there with a bunch of guys at the counter. And my father was always out. He's a knockaround guy. Yeah. And so when he was getting ill, I started to tell him all the time how proud I was to be his son, and how great of a father. And I would say to him, Dad, what a great father you were, and he'd shake his head no, and he was being sincere. And I grew up in Bed-Stuy. I grew up in a really, 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 really bad neighborhood. I grew up right around the corner from the Marcy Projects, and I didn't fear any. I look back now and think, why wasn't I more afraid? And then I realized, oh my God, everybody was afraid of my father. Like nobody wanted my father showing up on their doorstep. This is true. I'm not embellishing. And so, I told him. I said, I feel so fortunate that you were my father. And I think he had a hard time buying it because he didn't feel good about himself. So that was his thing. But when I took him home from the nursing home and I had him in that hospital bed, and I remember standing at the foot of the bed and looking at him, and he was all gaunt. His eyes were kind of like sunken in. I was sleeping in the room right outside his door, and this one night I heard this sound. It sounded like somebody took a Tupperware bowl and was clacking it on the Formica table. And then I learned a couple weeks later that's called the death rattle. That their airways start to cave in, everything starts to cave in. Every breath makes this noise. It really sounds like Tupperware, it really does. And so I was standing at the foot of his bed the next morning after experiencing this sound, and I got up several times and I went to his room and I heard it coming out of him, but I didn't know what to make of it. And I looked at him and he was all gaunt and he was clearly failing. And I remember looking at his face and going, "Oh shit!" Like I look exactly like him. Like right now, I look exactly like him. And in that bed, I thought, "Oh, wait a minute, that's gonna be me."
Like, I had never really given any solid thought to my own mortality until that second that I realized that I was as ill prepared to die as my father was, who was holding on with everything that he had to what little bit of life he had in him. And the next few years, I went into a real depression. It's when I realized that I'm going to die. I know it's like everybody says, oh, you know, death and taxes. We say this stuff cavalierly, but we really don't think about, oh, shit, someday it's going to happen swiftly, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's going to happen, and I can't go, wait a minute, I'm not ready now. No, you just go. That's it. And it was very sobering for me, and it changed me. What about you? Well,
you know, I think about it a lot. Tomorrow I turn 59.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. And I look at it a lot now, that because I have obviously way fewer days ahead of me than I have behind me, and the lifestyle that I live, I'm probably not going to die a crotchety old man in a wheelchair. I'm probably going to off myself some other way, with a little bit more fanfare. But either way, when I watched my father die, I was sort of put more at ease, because he died from COPD, and his brain was gradually more and more robbed of oxygen until he was just pretty goofy by the time he went. And I looked at that, and he was a psychiatrist, a very published psychiatrist. He had a very high academic career, and a very, very, very intelligent man. And to watch him deteriorate, mentally to the point where he was just out of it, it almost gave me some solace in that. Yeah, if this is nature's way, that I'm going to be, like on goofballs when I go out, I'm not even going to know what's happening. So, it's a gradual fade to black. So, if that's the way it happens, I can tolerate that. If I end up falling off a building, I'm probably not going to like that too much, but it'll certainly be more swift. Either way, what I learned from him at that point is when I would visit him and he would go in and out of, lucid moments,
right,
he was still smart as hell. And he would say things to me like he knew where he was going. He knew what the point in his life he was at. And he would say things, make sure your mother has this and this going, set up. And in my absence, please do this for me. And, just kind of like passing the torch,
right,
to his firstborn son. And that, and that I would hopefully be able to give him some peace of mind, and that when he would fade out, that, his wishes would be, carried out. And
right.
That was stuck with me as a very pragmatic way of looking at the end, rather than, being afraid of it. And he faced it head on, knew what was happening, and did what he had to do to tie up his loose ends and pass with dignity. And I hope I do that, but I think of dying now all the time. And it's, and we talked about it a little bit before the show, and you said to me something that's just, I've been processing, for the last couple of hours, is that, yeah, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because if you're aware of it, you tend to make better decisions, because you don't want to leave a mess.
But more than just that, you're selective about what you endeavor.
Yeah.
When you're young and you're full of piss and vinegar, you will take on challenge. Something will happen, and you'll accept the brunt of it. That's okay, because I'll recover. I'll deal with this, and I'll move on. And you'll do that throughout your life, and then all of a sudden you get to that point where you go, I got to be more selective about what I do with my time, because I don't have all these days in front of me anymore. Right. I don't have, the candle is getting short. And so what I ended up doing, so I didn't sleep well for about a year and a half after that, almost 2, because I lost my mother, my father first, and then my mother, and then my sister in a 3-year period.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then we were just a family of 4, so it's me, tag, I'm next. That was the first like realization. Oh man, I'm the next one. It's like down to me now.
Yeah.
The other realization was that I didn't have anybody who shared any of my early childhood memories, like when our dog knocked the Christmas tree down that year, or nobody to talk to about those things anymore. But I really, like, it struck me as like, oh God, like I hope that my death isn't me clinging to life. Like I hope that I'm ready to go when I go. And then I started thinking about that, and I decided. G. Gordon Liddy was afraid of rats, and he knew that being in the Secret Service, that was a dangerous thing for someone to know about him.
Sure.
So what he did was he bought some white rats at a pet shop, and he took them home and he killed them and he ate them. And he talked about the drive home with them in the box and scampering around, and how he barely could keep his eyes on the road because he was sweating. He was so nervous. And then it took him hours to kill the first one. And then he had to skin it and prepare it and put it in the frying pan and cook it. And then he had to eat it. And it was like he didn't eat it until the next day. And he talked about how laborious it was. But after he killed it and ate it, the first one, he didn't even have to kill the other ones and eat them. He was like, oh, man, I just killed and ate a rat. Like, I just killed and ate my biggest fear. Okay, I'm done.
Right.
And so I took that approach with death. I started to, like, lay in bed and imagine, what if it was now? What if I felt a pain in my chest? I had maybe a minute or two of lucidity, and then I was gone. Like, and I started to actually wallow in those thoughts. And when I first started doing it, it made me very sad and very anxious. But the more often I did it, I became less and less anxious, to where I would actually think, gee, what if it was now while I was driving the car? Yeah, I'm fine. I could go now. And I got really comfortable with the idea of my own death. And when that happened, not only did the sleepless issues that I would wake in the middle of the night, like thinking of my sister or thinking of my father or thinking of my mother, go away, but I started to look at my own life differently. Like, who did I really want in? I've literally, like, made my circle really small in the past few years.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. There are people in my family that I've had to break away from, where I just am not going to waste any time anymore. I just don't have any time. I feel like, and I said on Tom Bilyeu's show when I talked about this phenomenon, I said, you can't truly live until you embrace your own death. And the analogy I gave was, you and I, we're in New York. We're probably the only two people in this audience besides Joe Cristiano who knows what goofballs are. Because that's what we called them, right? Quaaludes and stuff.
Yeah.
Two and all said when we were kids, they were goofballs. We're in New York, and we're going to drive to California. And the whole time we're driving, we're going from state to state to state. But every time you try to bring up what you want to do in California, I shut you down. No, I don't want to talk about California. I don't want to talk about it. But inevitably, we're going to be there. No, I don't want to talk about it. That's how we treat our death. It's going to happen. It's the only thing I can guarantee in your life that will happen. But let's not talk about it.
I don't really think of it much from my perspective. When I think about dying, I think about how my son, how, he's devastated he's going to be, my daughter, my wife, my mom, and the people I'm leaving behind, how they're going to feel, and what their sadness is going to bring about, what they're going to say about me, and, those kinds of things. As far as life goes, I've lived 5 lifetimes so far. I mean, I have no complaints. I've done more than I have ever wanted to do. So like you said, my circle is intentionally very, very small now, because I don't need the stimulation. I'm a very insular, private, secluded, alone type person. And that's the way I thrive. Right. And if I go today, I'm okay with it. You know, I really am. And walking to the gym today, I could get hit by a truck, and that's it. I'm done. But it's my thoughts about it, laying in bed, wondering about it. Sometimes I have a bad dream about it, or always about my wife, my son, my daughter, my mom. It's never, ever about me being afraid of meeting the Grim Reaper. It's just never that. Right. My affairs are in order. My life is full. All of that stuff's been done. But it's the thought of that. And, of course, you know, like you said, I don't want to talk about California. But we're going to get there. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You
know? Shouldn't we talk about it? Just like
At some point, I think as you get to Arizona, you might want to talk about it, you know?
And, and you and I are in Arizona right now, technically, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I'm 61. You're going to be 59. So we're technically going across the eastern border of Arizona now.
Exactly. We're right there.
We just left Texas. So yeah, no, I agree with you, and maybe that's the time. But I think that sons learn about death from their fathers.
But that was my point I was trying to make. That's what I learned from my father. Is that there's no number of days that you're going to get. There aren't any. It's whatever it ends up being. It's what you do with the days leading up to that count, and it's going to be more for the people you leave behind than for you, because you want to give them the best of you, the most of you, whatever you can give of you. That's going to enhance, improve, benefit. You know, make their lives fuller and you know, create your life well lived. And that's all that you can hope for at the end of the road, is that you took that gift you were given and exploited it to the nth degree. And you got as much out of it as you could possibly have gotten and didn't waste a single minute. And if you can get to that point at the end of the road and say, that's what I did, then you can go in peace. But the last thing that I want to do is reach that border of Arizona with regret. And so far, thank God I don't have any, because that would be a terrible thing. And when you're at the end of the road, it's really hard to do anything about it.
Yeah, but if you have regret, let it go.
Yes.
Find a way to let it go. Yeah, because it's going to visit you. It's going to visit you on that moment.
And, you know, we talk about, you know, being at the border of Arizona. Look, barring any accidents, illness, or whatever, in terms of regular life expectancy, we got another good 20, 25 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
That's a long time, especially if it was a prison sentence. So, you know, you got if there's a long time left, they're still pretty young, but we still think about it because there are fewer days ahead than there are behind. And that's just what you naturally do. But yes, I agree with you 100%. Leave the regret at the door and live like my father taught me, like I'm sure your father taught you. Live every day like it's your last one.
It doesn't matter how or when you die. It matters how you lived.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
Yep.
And thank God for this show, because I feel like part of the reason I feel comfortable dying is I feel like I've given so much already, for the past 14 years on this show. I feel like I've left a legacy. In fact, I forgot to say this at the top of every show. I normally say, today is October 28, 2019, for those of you listening to the show 100 years from now, because we were so far ahead of everybody else. And I forgot to say it, so I'm saying it now. But no, you know, I really do. I really feel like, you know, if I died tomorrow, I have a good body of, I mean, I'm not Mother Teresa, but I did some good, and I left it behind, and that's it.
Yeah, you did. And after you're gone, people will watch these shows and you'll live on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the important thing. I really do believe that. I'm not a spiritual person. I'm definitely not religious because I was raised Catholic. that ruined it for me. The whole idea that I was born broken with original sin just never. I was like, come on, are you kidding?
I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?
I just showed up and I'm broken already.
I didn't do anything.
So, but I kind of feel like I'm not very spiritual, but I do believe that the longer people remember your name and who you are, that if there is any energy circulation, maybe you get to stay away longer and not have to play this game again.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
So there you go. Anything else you want to wrap it up with? I think we've covered a lot of good stuff.
I think we have, and I hope, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these. This is a great topic, and I want to be an advocate for men, and we and I know you do too, and we need them because masculine male men are under attack right now, and somebody's got to advocate for us because if not, we're going to be a nation of pussies, and neither one of us are going to be able to stand that.
Did you ever see the movie Tom Horn with Steve McQueen?
I have not, unfortunately.
So Tom Horn was a buffalo hunter and Indian fighter at the turn of the century.
Okay.
And this is a true story. Bat Masterson was, okay.
Yeah.
So Bat Masterson was a lawman, and I forget what city it was in, but the Indians were pretty much on their reservations at this point in time, and there wasn't a lot of Indian fighting going on. But there was still some bad guys out there. And so Bat Masterson and the mayor of the city go to Tom Horn because they know this guy. He can hit you from a mile away. They're like, we need to get rid of these bad guys. Got to get rid of these bad guys. And they hire him. He's been living on a ranch, minding his own business, hunting buffalo. There's no Indian to fight. The guy is like easing into life, and they call him out for this one last time. Look, you help us. You help the town. So he agrees to do it, and he kills these guys. I think it was 3 or 4 guys he kills. And it's a very intriguing story. And then at the end, they realize they got to kill him now because he's the last threat left. Like they used him to kill these guys, but they realized that if he got pissed off at them, they'd be gone like poof. And so they realized like now we got and in the movie they assassinate him. It's a true story.
Wow.
And that's what they're trying to do to manly men today.
Yes.
We serve the purpose. We'll fight the wars, but we're becoming an inconvenience now. And so they want to demasculinize us. And we have to be aware of this. There's a concerted effort. This isn't a dream. This isn't BS. This is legit.
It is. It is. And, that's a great analogy, that point, because, look, guys I know hate cops, okay? They hate military men. But their life is in peril. Who do you think they're going to call? They're not going to call a fucking plumber. They're going to call a cop. And how ironic is it for them that when the chips are down and they need help, they got to call the person they hate. So, and it's the person they hate that's going to save their ass. So
I've always said, like places like New York, the cops should just all call in sick a couple days.
Yeah, then see what happens.
And watch how quickly everybody, de Blasio and all them are like, oh, guys. Yeah, because there would be mayhem in the streets.
That's right. Absolute mayhem. And you're gonna wish for a cop. You're gonna wish for a military guy. You're gonna wish for some manly man to show up and step up and do what's got to be done.
Fix your problem.
The wimp with the fucking cat and the sweater tied around his neck and the man bun is not going to do it.
No. He'll negotiate it. He'll offer to make quiche.
He'll cry.
I'll make quiche for everybody.
Yeah, we'll make quiche.
All right, John, this has been good. If you want us to cover a specific topic that you think is relevant to the plight of being a man in today's society, send it to onair@superhumanradio.net, and we will add it to the topics. And we're probably going to do a bunch of different really good shows in the next couple months, and hopefully, and also do me a solid and pass this show around. A new study came out that shows that podcast listenership is predominated by men. Greater than 60% of all podcasts audiences are men.
Wow.
And so this is a good show for you to pass around. Pass it around, and that way we can even build better content, more listenership, better topics, and so on. So there you go. All right, John, thanks a lot, brother.
Thank you, Carl.
We'll see everybody tomorrow with a regular episode of Superhuman Radio.